in and take a look at the videos if they weren't able to come to the live sessions. So this is kind of a series that we started. It's Quarantine to Eat Healthy, that mixes the perfect combination of going over some basic nutrition principles with a nice little food demo for the perfect recipe. So I'm Michelle Pearlman. I think I've probably met both of you already. I work at the University of Miami. I'm a gastroenterologist, physician, nutrition specialist, and obesity medicine specialist. So some disclosures: I'm not a chef. I have zero, zilch, absolutely no formal training in cooking or the culinary arts, shall we say. But what I like to kind of focus on is all the pictures and the food demo that we're going to do today is really all of my own creations. And that's really just to show you all that you don't need to be a chef, you don't need to be a food artist, you don't need to be a stay-at-home male or female where all they kind of do is slave over the kitchen, making food for themselves and their family. It really is just to reiterate the importance of, if you have a plan in the kitchen and you understand some key basic nutrition principles, it is very easy and simple, and actually can be fun to get creative in the kitchen and really play around with what foods are going to work for you and what your particular goals are. So all of the images in the seminar, and again, today's food demo, I did not hire someone to come to my kitchen to prep all this. It's really very doable with some basic, just key ingredients. And then finally, I am a physician, and I truly believe that food is medicine. I think that, you know, unfortunately, many of us are eating ourselves ill, and we really have to use, you know, look at food like any other medication where it can definitely help us, but if we choose the wrong foods, then it can really hurt us. And so the goal is really to kind of change our mindset and our relationship with food so that we truly eat to help nourish our bodies to feel well, because you can't feel well unless you eat well. And so the goal here is that you learn to eat for what's going to work for each individual person so that you not only survive, but you thrive in doing so. So today, and I love this term, culinary medicine, we're going to go over just some basic food concepts with examples, and I have a lot of pictures in the seminar, and then we'll do a food demo and kind of go over all the delicious spread that I have here that I fortunately will be able to eat afterwards. So, you know, oftentimes I hear that people don't have enough time to eat healthy. Well, now you do. We're quarantined, we're stuck at home. Now is really an optimal opportunity to really start to get creative in the kitchen and learn how to cook healthy, simple meals. So really take advantage of this opportunity and experiment in the kitchen, create new habits so that when we all exit this whole quarantine situation, we actually come out a healthier version of ourselves. And believe it or not, it really is possible. So let's go over some key principles that we kind of went over last time. So I'm not a rocket scientist. I really don't have anything mind-shattering to say. But really what I focus on is just eating whole foods, really trying to reduce the amount of refined, processed foods that unfortunately take up the majority of the grocery stores. Even health food stores and vitamin stores, most of their products are not actually real food. They are powdered down concoctions for someone to sell and make money off of with 1,000,001 health claims. But really, if we just get back to the basics and eat real food that has a lot of good nutrients, a lot of good fiber, will help make us feel full, has a lot of antioxidants, that is really the key. And so today we're going to go over some options that will help kind of fulfill all of these goals. And so in general, our meals should mainly consist of vegetables and lean protein. It doesn't matter if you're vegan or vegetarian or you love your meat, animal or plant-based proteins are totally fine. So whichever you prefer. But always remember that one of something does not necessarily equate to one serving. So for instance, one chicken breast does not actually mean that it is one serving. One serving of a lean protein is typically around 4 ounces. Depending on the type of chicken breast that you're getting, that chicken breast could be anywhere from 8 ounces to 12 ounces. And so if you have the whole chicken breast, you may actually be consuming 2 or 3 servings. So that's why a food scale, I think, is really important, at least in the beginning, to kind of teach you what a true portion is, because you can't lie from the scale. So for instance, if you were to measure out half a cup of chicken, but you do a heaping half a cup of chicken, well, that's still more than half a cup of chicken. Versus if you weigh it, it doesn't matter if it's heaping or flat, the scale is the scale. So measuring is still better than nothing, but weighing is definitely the most accurate way to really learn the true portions and make sure you're doing it appropriately. Now, not everyone needs a snack. The old dogma that you have to eat every 2 to 3 hours to maintain that metabolism is really not based on any data. So we really just need to hone into these hunger cues and figure out, okay, are we hungry or are we just bored? Are we anxious? Things like that. So really honing into those hunger cues is very important. So what I tell people is, for the most part, 2 or 3 meals a day is fine. And if you're not hungry for breakfast, you do not need to eat breakfast. And if you're hungry in the afternoon and you have a snack, then that is totally fine. So for many people, it's 2 or 3 meals a day, 1 to 2 snacks, but it really depends on the person. Folks that do intermittent fasting, if that works for them, that is fine. So if they eat, let's say, 1 or 2 meals within a 6-hour period and they're reaching their goals, then, I think that's great and that's working for them, but that meal scheme does not work for the majority of folks. So I got a question, am I weighing before or after cooking? So that totally depends. Typically, let's say you bought like a chicken breast or something. Typically, here, let me actually see. So I have an example. Okay, so here, these are turkey breast cutlets, and interesting, it doesn't actually say what, oh, here we go, serving size. So serving size is 4 ounces. So typically what that means is these cutlets are obviously raw, okay? So if it is raw and it says the serving size is 4 ounces, typically what that means is you weigh it in the form that it comes. So I would weigh the turkey cutlet, and if it's 4 ounces raw, then that would be a serving, okay? Because once you cook it down, it depends on what you're cooking. So if you cook, let's say, spinach, right? The spinach, when you cook out all the water, it's going to weigh less after you cook it down. So if you were to look at spinach, then you would weigh it depending on the way it came. So if it were raw spinach, you would weigh the raw version. Then if you cooked it down, it may be less, but you're going from the initial state. With the turkey cutlets, it's 4 ounces and it came raw. So I would weigh out my raw portion and then I would cook it down. And it varies. So for rice, for instance, you're going to, let's say, a serving of rice is, let's say, half a cup. So you would do the serving size half a cup of dry, which is the way it came. And then when you add water to it, it's obviously going to increase the weight because it sucks in the water, but you would weigh it in its natural state, which was the dry formulation. Can you eat too much spinach? Well, so interesting question. So it depends on what your goals are. If someone is on, let's say, Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, and that basically it blocks vitamin K, and that has to do with coagulation or blood clotting. So if someone's on Coumadin and they eat a bunch of green leafy vegetables, which are high in vitamin K, that's actually going to reverse the effects of the vitamin K in the spinach. So there's an interaction there. So there is interactions with food and with medication. So yes, if you're on Coumadin or medications that interfere with vitamin K and you eat a lot of spinach that has vitamin K, then yes, in that regard, you can eat too much spinach. In regards to, just overall health and trying to, let's say, lose weight or maintain your weight or be healthy, then, really spinach is very low in calorie. So people are not going to gain weight just by eating a ton of spinach. that was really just an example of how spinach, it obviously, you know, loses a lot of weight because you're cooking out the water when you cook it, versus foods like rice where it actually gains weight. But in general, when you're weighing food, the serving size on the container is going to be in relation to how you bought the food in its state. So, you know, dry oats, dry rice, the raw turkey, etc. So hopefully that clarified things. And then, so if you're hungry, then you have a snack. And again, same thing applies with fruit. One, let's say, bell pepper, okay, does not necessarily mean one serving of bell pepper. Let's say I ate this apple, and if I actually ate this apple, I would break all my teeth off. But, you know, a lot of like the apple crisp, like the Honey Crisp apples at the grocery store look like they're on steroids, and they're literally this big. So if I were to say, okay, I'm going to eat an apple as a snack, but the apple I ate was this big, then that's actually probably 4 or 5 servings of an apple. So remember, one of something does not necessarily mean one serving, but it really depends on what you're eating. So let's say berries, you can actually, the serving size is usually about 3/4 to 1 cup, versus a banana, which is much higher in sugar. That means the serving size ends up being less, more towards like half of a large banana. So you get less bang for your buck with the banana because it is higher in sugar. So it gets very variable depending on what you're eating, depending on like the carb and the sugar content. So that's where it can get a little bit tricky. And then in general, we want to minimize the sauces, the marinades, the high-fat fillers like mayonnaise, because they end up adding excess saturated fat and sugar and calories. And so in a day, if I were to add, let's say, mayonnaise with my tuna, you know, that wouldn't set me back. But if it's something that I do every single day, and with every meal or snack, I'm adding a lot of these fillers, then as you can imagine, with time, that can definitely contribute to gradual weight gain. And so I'm not really saying you only can eat bland steamed food and have no flavor. The goal here is really to experiment and to enjoy the food you're eating, but it's about choosing things strategically, where if, let's say, you're having raw vegetables, and I'll go over this in the demo, that you're adding, let's say, fresh avocado, guacamole, pico de gallo, things like that, that yes, they do have calories, but they're at least also giving you good nutrients and good fats with the avocado, poly and monounsaturated fats, versus, let's say, a bunch of mayonnaise, which is really just giving you a lot of saturated fat. So we really want to be strategic in where are we getting our calories from. It's not just about total calories. So let's talk about coffee. In general, there is nothing wrong with coffee. Now, I don't condone drinking 2 pots a day of coffee. It's definitely in moderation, 1 to 2 cups for most people. The issue really is, what are we adding to the coffee? That's really, the devil is in the details. Caffeine in general, too much caffeine can increase the heart rate, the blood pressure, cause a diuretic effect, and in some folks lead to dehydration. But overall, you know, I think it's fine in balance. Now, when we talk about what people are adding to their coffee, a lot of people will add the artificial sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose. The artificial sweeteners have similar side effects as regular table sugar. Both actually can increase blood sugars and lead to cardiovascular disease and other comorbid conditions. So if you need to add that sweetness to your coffee, then we have a little bit better data for the plant-based sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit, but really try to lessen the sweeteners as much as possible. Because the issue here is that these sweeteners oftentimes are 200 to 300 times sweeter than regular sugar. So we are so heightened to this high sweetness factor that when we eat natural sugar like berries, the berries no longer taste sweet to us, they actually taste bitter. So we really have to retrain our taste buds to, you know, think that eating berries and an apple are sweet. But unfortunately, because sugar and artificial sweeteners are added to most of our food products, you know, unbeknownst to us, nothing really tastes sweet enough anymore. With your coffee, I really urge you to avoid the creamers and the cow's milk. There's a lot of extra sugar in there. And so really try to use like the unsweetened non-dairy milks in general. They have less sugar and less calories. Now, even if you have a lactose-free option like Lactaid, that does not remove the sugar from the milk. It only removes the lactose, which is one of the sugars, but there's still other sugars in dairy milk. So Lactaid, for instance, still has around 12 grams of sugar, even though you remove the lactose. So remember that. So good options would be like a soy milk, oat milk, the coconut milk, and then your nut milks like cashew and almond. So I haven't seen a lot of these campaigns recently, but the old kind of got milk ads were all over the place in every magazine and TV commercial that you would come across. And so they would, the whole dairy industry, they put on superheroes and beautiful celebrities. And so people think, and it's a great marketing campaign, people think that the only way to get adequate calcium and the only way to have strong bones is to drink a ton of milk every day. But really, that's not the case. There are plenty of other foods that we can be eating that are non-dairy, that have a lot of nutrients, including calcium, and help with overall bone health. So it's not that we should be drinking milk every day, and that's the only way that we can get these nutrients. I'm not a milk hater by any means, but I'll go over some kind of data here on the differences. Let me see if I have it. I didn't include it here. So if you compare, even let's say skim milk versus whole milk, a lot of people think, okay, well, it's skim, it must be low in sugar. But remember, the skim and the whole only pertain to the fat content. So skim and whole milk have the same amount of sugar. They both have about 12 grams of sugar per serving. And the Lactaid milk, again, you take out the lactose and it still has about 12 grams of sugar. So in general, the dairy products are actually, like the milk products, are high in sugar. So that's why, I really push for these non-dairy milks, because people in general are trying to reduce their sugar intake. So what non-dairy option do you choose? Because now in the market, there's really a whole aisle of non-dairy options. So it seems complicated. It's really not all that complicated. It will depend on food allergies. So clearly, if you have a nut allergy, an almond allergy, cashew allergy, then you're not going to choose the cashew or the almond milk. So one is looking at allergies. Two is going to be dietary preferences. So if you just don't like the taste of kind of nutty type flavors, then you're not going to choose the nut milk. Or if you, for whatever reason, want to eliminate soy, you have a soy allergy or you just don't like the taste of it, then, you're clearly going to use your dietary preferences. Then you want to look at, okay, do I want a fuller fat version or a non-fat? So that's pretty easy to make that decision. They have unsweetened and sweetened. So if you're going to go for the sweetened non-dairy option, unfortunately, that's basically just comparable to the dairy option, because now you have, again, you're adding in the sugar back in there. So if the reason for you to go from dairy to non-dairy was to eliminate sugar, then you're getting the same amount of sugar with the sweetened variety. So I really push people to get the unsweetened version, because that could save you 12 grams of sugar. The unsweetened, like almond milk, has like 1 gram of sugar. So it's a great low sugar option. Then you have flavored versus unflavored. So they have chocolate, which usually has more calories. They have vanilla, they have plain. And then if you want a lower carb option, then that's really going to be your coconut and your almond and your cashew milk. The ones like the rice milk and the oat milk, because they're basically coming from a carbohydrate source, they are higher in carbohydrates. So that kind of hopefully simplifies these non-dairy options. You can also make your own if you really want to get creative in the kitchen and you're motivated. And you basically take, the almonds or whatever source that you're using, and you kind of soak it. Then you combine it with water, you put it in a blender or a food processor. And then what you can actually do is you can actually make your own. This is kind of store-bought almond flour, but making your own almond milk at home, you can actually take the residual stuff and make your own almond flour for baking purposes. And you can make my almond, like an almond flour pancake or waffle. We talked about that recipe in the last seminar. So you can actually use the gritty stuff as an almond flour for for a, you know, all-purpose flour alternative. So that's a great option. And then you also get the almond milk to drink. Now, if you do make it at home yourself, it has a shorter shelf life. So you'd have to dump it if you didn't drink it within a couple of days versus the store-bought variety. Okay, so let's talk about some healthy snacks here. So in general, we really want to go to, again, real food, keep it basic here. So that's going to be our fruits and our vegetables or some lean protein. So as far as fruit options, I usually push for berries because the berries are lowest in sugar. They're rich in antioxidants. So berries are a great option, and a serving of berries is typically 3/4 of a cup to a cup. So you can actually get quite a bit for low sugar, or like a small apple. So those are really my go-tos. The fruits that have more sugar are the ones that taste more sweet. So that would include like your mango, your pineapple, your grapes, your banana. They taste sweeter, and that's because they are sweeter. They do contain more sugar. So I typically have people really try to focus on the berries or a small apple, or the melon, not watermelon, but like cantaloupe or honeydew. Those are all lower in sugar. Other great options, I actually learned this from one of my patients, is he actually would freeze like a sugar-free Jello, and now it's kind of thawing out because it's been sitting out, but it actually kind of tastes, if you use your imagination a little bit, it tastes kind of like an Italian ice. So freezing sugar-free Jello is a good option if you're kind of craving something sweet. Now, obviously that has some artificial sweeteners in there. We can't, I don't think, avoid them 100%. So it's not the end of the world if you have a little bit of the artificial sweetener in your sugar-free Jello. Nuts are also a great option. I always really go for the single serving nut packs, because if you're watching TV, you know, you're watching a movie and you're constantly grazing on a big bag of nuts from Costco, you could go through half the bag and eat 800 calories without even realizing it. So really setting yourself up for success using the single serving portions where it's pre-portioned for you, or if you have a lot of willpower, then you basically can just count out the nuts and say, okay, one serving of nuts is 18 grams. So you weigh out 18 grams of nuts and then you put the big bag away. So if you're able to do that, then that's also another great option. When you buy the single serving packets, they are more expensive. So whatever works for you and your goals. Edamame is also a really good snack. It is a soy product. It's got really good fiber, really good protein. And this is something, if you're kind of craving something just to kind of munch on while you're, let's say, watching TV or whatnot, it's a great option. So protein shakes are helpful for some people. Again, I really promote the real whole food ultimately, but if it's something where you tend to get hungry at night and you really just need to drink something to help fill that belly so you're not so hungry, then maybe doing like a low sugar whey protein powder, and there's a million on the market, adding it to water or some unsweetened almond milk, maybe adding some ice or some berries or something to it and putting it in a blender to make it more of like a slurry. And I have an example here that I'll show you that, that's an option for some folks. And then the single serving dips like guacamole, hummus, Greek yogurt, etc. We'll go over some of those in the food demo. So these are kind of pre-made snack packs. These pictures are from the fresh market. So the nuts, there's some blueberries and strawberries and 2 hard-boiled eggs. And then there's another snack pack that has sugar snap peas and peppers and broccoli. These are all great options. They are, on the higher end when you're talking about price. So they're about, for the nut one, it's actually like $7 for that one snack pack. And then for the other one, I think it was about $5. So not terrible, but still, if you're getting one of those every day for a snack, that definitely adds up. But the key thing here is that the one with the nuts and the eggs and the berries, it's sold as a snack pack, but there's actually 450 calories in there. So that's as much as a meal, maybe even more than a meal for some folks. So just because, it's sold in like a snack pack, remember, there's 2 yolks in there with the egg, and they each have about 50 calories each just for the yolk. And then the nuts, it was way more than a serving for those walnuts. They probably gave you 300 calories just worth of the nuts. So you have to be a little bit careful here, is that even these things that are sold as snack packs often have more than a serving. That's almost 500 calories for just the snack pack. So often what I do is I don't buy the snack pack. I will just buy like the mini bell peppers and the cucumber and the celery, and I'll go over that in the demo, and then I make my own little snack packs. And then I'll go over my protein popsicles, and then, you know, a lot of this has to do with portion control. If you don't buy the individual packets of guacamole, then you can use little Tupperware containers and kind of pre-portion them yourselves. So ultimately, we need to prep for success. We are never going to wake up one day and say, this is going to be easy. I'm ready to do this. I will never have any more temptation in my life. Even if I have anxiety or there's chaos or I'm bored, I'm always going to eat the broccoli. Unfortunately, for most, that day will never come. So we have to anticipate that. If you don't stock your fridge with, and this is my fridge, okay? So if you don't stock your fridge for success, then oftentimes you will not be successful with trying to eat healthier, particularly in these chaotic times. We often, when we're quarantined, every time we walk by the pantry or the refrigerator, we open it up, we see if there's anything good to eat. Even when we're not hungry, then if we see the chips on the counter, then we go ahead and eat the chips. So you gotta just dump the junk. We don't need the chips in the house, we don't need the candy. Don't make this harder on yourself than it has to be. Again, during chaotic times, stress, anxiety, the sugar is a drug and it makes us feel good. That's why they call it comfort food, or foods that are high in sugar. So if the sugar is at home, we're going to eat it. So you gotta keep it out of the home. You know, when I look in my fridge and I see all these greens and cauliflower and I open it up, then you can bet that I'm not gonna go, you know, pop the cauliflower in the microwave, okay? And so I basically open it up, I see there's nothing that's gonna kind of give me that sugar high, and I close it back up and I do something else because I really wasn't all that hungry to begin with. Okay, so food demo time. You see the apron over the fridge there, and that's really just to show that really abs are made in the kitchen. Exercise is definitely important, but without a good nutrition plan as your building block, then no amount of exercise, unless you're an elite athlete, is going to outdo a poor nutrition plan. So really it comes down to what are you fueling your body day in and day out, and then exercise is an adjunct as far as weight loss is concerned. But yes, exercise is extremely important in maintaining your muscle mass and your bone strength, and for anxiety, cardiovascular health, etc. But just solely for weight loss, it really comes down to just consistent, good, clean nutrition. Okay, so now we're going to go to the big screen here. Okay, so let's go over this demo portion on this beautiful spread that I have for all of you. So what do I have first? So here is my homemade yogurt parfait here. Okay, so this is actually a good non-dairy option. Forager makes it. They have it at Fresh Market and some other kind of more boutique grocery stores. So it is cashew yogurt, and what I put in here was I put a pack of these 100-calorie snack packs of almonds. So I put that in here. I put a handful of mixed berries, raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries. And then I added, for my little own homemade granola, I added, this was literally just old-fashioned oats here with some flaxseed and chia seeds, totally plain. And so I added that on top. And then you could always add, if you wanted to sweeten it up a little bit, you could add some cinnamon or maybe a little bit of truvia, and you have a great snack right there. Very low in sugar. You're getting a couple grams of sugar from your berries. There's no sugar in the oats, and the yogurt has 1 gram of sugar. So it's actually a phenomenal option. You have to be very careful. Remember that not all yogurts are created equal. If you were to go for like Yoplait or some of the other ones that have the granola in them or the added fruit, this one has 1 gram of sugar. Some of the other options, and they now have, I think, like a Starburst flavor of Yoplait, some of them have like 30 grams of sugar or more. So just because it's yogurt does not mean it is healthy, you have to be very careful. So definitely go for the yogurts that are lower in sugar. My rule of thumb is try for anything that you're eating, try to stay under 7 grams of sugar per serving. So this would definitely hit that benchmark. Let me see as far as the comments here. People intolerant of lactose can eat yogurt. Yes. So so lactose intolerance, most people, okay, as we get older, particularly in America, are lactose intolerant. It's actually normal to lose the lactase enzyme in your small intestine as we get older. It used to be a survival advantage when food was more scarce, but food for most people is not really scarce anymore. So in general, a lot of people are actually lactose intolerant. It is actually a genetic mutation for adults to still have the lactase enzyme as an adult. So that's just kind of a side note. So typically as we get older, we lose that enzyme. And so when we take in lactose, which is glucose plus galactose, 2 sugar molecules put together, if we lose that enzyme, we can't break down the enzyme. So that undigested molecule goes into our intestine. It pulls in water with it. And so some folks will get diarrhea. And the undigested molecule then gets broken down by normal bacteria in our gut, and it forms hydrogen, methane, and sulfur, which are gases. So many people will feel bloated. There are some dairy products that don't actually have lactose in it. So not all dairy has lactose. For instance, a lot of the hard cheeses don't actually have lactose in them. So people can be lactose intolerant, but be able to eat the hard cheeses, okay? The other thing is that there are some products that do have lactose in it, but they are in such small quantities that even if you're lactose intolerant, you don't feel the effects of that. So that would be like, for instance, the Greek yogurt, which is a dairy product and does have a small amount of lactose in it. The cool thing about Greek yogurt is there's a lot of good probiotics in there. So the bacteria actually in the yogurt, whatever lactose is in the yogurt, is basically broken down by the bacteria in the yogurt so that when you ingest it, it's already broken down. So yes, it is true that people with lactose intolerance can have dairy yogurt products. Okay, so that was that. Now, what else do I have here? So this was my protein shake. And basically all I put in here, I know it doesn't look all that appetizing and it's pretty frozen right now, but what I put in my protein shake in the morning is typically ice about to here. I put in my unsweetened almond milk. I put in just a plain whey vanilla protein powder, which it's just by Pure Protein, but there's a million out on the market. It has 100 calories and I believe like 4 grams of carbs and maybe 1 or 2 grams of sugar and probably 20 or so grams of protein. So I put my protein powder, my ice, I put in about a cup of frozen spinach and a little bit of cinnamon actually. And then I blend it and I freeze it. Again, it's like rock hard solid right now. It's been in the freezer too long, but then I basically kind of eat it like a milkshake. So that's a really good option too. And then along those lines, I actually made these, and they're, I think, partially defrosted now. These are actually my frozen spinach popsicles. So this is actually really cool. You can buy these popsicle molds, and they're rubber, and then you just put the sticks in. So these popsicles are actually, and you can make whatever popsicles you want, which is really neat. So in these popsicles, I basically put what I put in my protein shake in popsicle form. So let's say, after work, I just feel like, eating something kind of cold while I'm finishing notes or something, then I literally just put, it's the whey protein powder, the frozen spinach, cinnamon, and the unsweetened almond milk, and I got a popsicle ready to go. So there's a lot of kind of fruit popsicles out in the market, but a lot of them have a ton of sugar. So just imagine you could make your own popsicle at home. You could make a creamsicle. Let's say you wanted like a peach creamsicle or a berry creamsicle. You do the unsweetened nut milk, you do maybe some peaches or some mixed berries, some, vanilla low sugar protein powder. You put it in the freezer for a couple hours and voila, you have your own popsicles. And so you can really play around with the vegetables or the fruit that you want to put in there. It's a really cool thing to get creative with. Okay, so what else do I have here? The Jello. These are actually my sweet potato fries here. One of my favorites. This is my little air fryer container. So these sweet potato fries, they sell them at like Fresh Market, Whole Foods. I'm not sure if they have them like at Publix, but they are basically pre-cut, pre-crinkled. They're in the fresh aisle typically, although I think they sell them by frozen as well. And I literally just took these, I put them in my air fryer, I put a little bit of olive oil and some pepper on top, and there you go. You got some sweet potato fries here, and you get all the fiber, the nutrients from the sweet potato, and you're really negating a lot of the saturated fat if you were to get kind of other sweet potato fries. And you have to be a little bit careful here, because if you end up getting like the pre-seasoned, kind of pre-made sweet potato fries in the freezer aisle, they often have a lot more calories and a lot more fat, and that's because they're not just using the sweet potato, they're adding tons of oils and other seasonings in there to kind of give it flavor. And so if you just make your own from fresh, that's really a great way to lower the calories. So I have another question. How does the air fryer work? So it's super simple. It depends on which type of air fryer you have. Mine, I think I spent probably like $50 from Amazon. I really don't promote one air fryer over the next. I've really only tried this one. I have heard, and you could probably just Google like the top 10 air fryers on the market and set your price range. I've heard that to get a quality air fryer, you want to go for the one that is just the air fryer versus like a 7-in-1 machine where air fryer is just one of the options. I hear the Soul air fryer, typically they work better. So literally all you do, like this one here, it just has this little thing, okay? And then so that's all it is. And you literally, usually what I do so it doesn't stick to the bottom is I just spray it a little bit with olive oil. I put whatever protein or vegetable, whatever I'm making, I just put it flat on there. And then I literally pop it in the air fryer, and then you turn it on, and you can set a timer. And then you just walk away, and then it just shuts off. So it is super easy and a great way to kind of get that crispiness, but really remove a lot of that fat. You don't even have to add any olive oil or any oils to it in general. Usually if you want it to be more crispier, then you will do that. I've also experimented with different ways to kind of make fried chicken. And one of the things I made earlier today was I actually had like chicken tenderloins, and I put it in a binder, which was just egg whites, and then I dipped it in literally just plain almond flour. So I used the almond flour actually in substitute of like a bread coating, like breadcrumbs, and then I popped it in the air fryer, and it actually tasted phenomenal. So you can really play around with your non-refined flours like almond flour, coconut flour. There's a lot of different nut flours on the market. You could add different seasonings to it to kind of give it more of an herbaceous flavor, and really try to, play around with the different breading options so it tastes more like fried chicken. So I liked it. Whether or not other people would, I'm not sure, but I enjoyed it earlier today. Okay, so another option here actually are these little egg McMuffins. So I used, all I did here, this is a spinach egg McMuffin that I have here. These are great little protein snacks that you could put in a little bag or Tupperware, take it on the go. And then this is my sweet version. It's blueberries and cinnamon egg McMuffin. And all I did was I put 1 egg and 2 egg whites. I whisked it up. I put it in a cupcake tin. And then I made different types of egg McMuffins. So I add strawberries to one, blueberries to another, and cinnamon. And then for my savory options, I did like peppers, onion, and spinach. And so you can play around with the different things that you want to put in there. You pop it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then you have all these cute little egg McMuffins that you can eat 2 or 3. You put the rest in the freezer for another day. You defrost them. And it's a super cool, easy option for a really good way to get good lean protein. Okay, so what else do I have here? So another option here. So I'm all about portion control. So I really like these little snack packs. So this is literally just baby carrots, super easy to throw in your purse on the go. I talked about my little nut packs, but again, if you're able to portion control, then you can just count out the number of carrots or the number of almonds, put it in your own little bag, and off you go. I just like the snack packs because it's just easier for me. Another option here are the single serving guacamole packets here. So these are really nice because again, it's all portion control. I know that this is 100 calories, okay? Versus half of a pretty small Hass avocado, okay? Half of this is actually still more than a portion. So about a serving of avocado is like 2 tablespoons. So let me So if I were to, let's say, okay, I'm going to have half a Hass avocado and I want to measure it out. So that's 1 tablespoon. That's 2, okay? So this is all the avocado I get per serving, okay? But what if I had half of the Hass avocado? Right here, that's probably about 150, almost 200 calories. And then imagine if I ate the entire Hass avocado, even the small one, that could be close to 350 calories. So that's why, I really like these small packs because it portions it out for you. You don't have to, do the tablespoon and then put the rest of the way because then this may go bad. And so at least I have the single serving and I don't have to worry about, wasting the rest of the avocado. So a really good option. These things are super easy. Again, eating healthy does not have to take time or be difficult. Literally just raw vegetables. I have some sugar snap peas here. I have some fresh bell peppers, the green, the red, the orange, the yellow. Great ways to get vitamin C and other really good essential vitamins. So again, eat colors of the rainbow. And so what I'll do is I'll, put a bunch of these in a Tupperware container, and then I'll throw in this little snack pack of guacamole and I'll take it to work, and I got stuff to munch on all day. They also have like the single serving hummus packs and salsa. So really good ways to get good snacks in. And there's all the rich fiber in there will definitely help fill you up. So the edamame, which I spoke about earlier, a great snack that's high in protein and fiber. And so, if you're watching TV, it's a great, little snack to kind of munch on if you're someone that tends to just like to eat while you're doing something else. Let's see what else. So they have these little steam fresh bags. These are really cool options. So I steamed these, but you could just snap on just raw French green beans, or you could, steam them and then eat them so they're kind of soft. But, having these on a plate with, is also a great snack. So just get creative. These little mini cucumbers are a great option. And so they're really easy to slice. You put it in Tupperware. You can put maybe a little bit of like rice vinegar, some balsamic vinaigrette, a little bit of pepper on top. And then you got a great little crunchy snack here. So here's my shrimp cocktail. So if you're looking for a more kind of Asian flair here, this was literally, it was initially frozen shrimp and I just thawed it out. So you could snack on some fresh shrimp. These are just slices of salmon and ahi tuna, and you can kind of make your own little sushi wrap here. Okay, so you have one of these little seaweed things. If you're craving something salty and crunchy, you can put a little bit of, let's say, tuna, a little bit of, let's say, here's a little bit of cabbage here, a little bit of, I have riced cauliflower, so you get that rice. So it's really just cauliflower. And then you have a little bit here of your fresh avocado. And there you go. You have a homemade little sushi wrap right there. And there's really like no carbohydrates. It's really just whatever carbs you're getting from a little bit of the cauliflower rice. So again, another great option if you're craving something like sushi. Okay, so what else do I have? And then I showed you my pops. And then here is just, it's not really a snack per se, but I just wanted to go over a quick kind of fajita option. So I use lettuce as my wrap instead of the tortilla. So you save a ton of calories and carbs. And then you can put, if let's say you're craving a fajita or something, you can put some riced cauliflower in there. a little bit of mixed cabbage. You can put a little bit of your avocado. And then I have a little bit of ground turkey that I made in my slow cooker. So you have some ground turkey. So there you have, you know, and then you could add, let's say, some Greek yogurt as like your sour cream, and you have a very yummy, delicious little fajita here that is super low in carb, because you're literally just getting your carbs from the rice, cauliflower, and cabbage, and that's like nothing. So you're getting good fats from your avocado, good nutrients with all of the vegetables, and another just really good option. If, let's say, you want a small meal, you could have 1 or 2 of these fajitas, or as a snack, you have 1 of them, you know, whatever it may be, just really good, healthy options. So that, I think, is all I have here. I'm excited because I get to eat all this food pretty soon. I will open it up to you all for any other questions. Do you all have any other questions or anything? So let me put up my social media stuff. If you all, oh, popcorn. Yeah, I mean, if you're, you know, craving popcorn, there are better options. Okay, so popcorn, you know, they have like Smart Pop and other options out there. You know, they're really not the worst thing in the world, but I really try to focus on eating foods that are going to serve a purpose. So, and you know, in my respect, just to eat something that has calories but offers you no nutritional benefit, I find is just empty calories. It's really not helping you. It's not the worst thing in the world, but that's why I really focus on, okay, what is it about the popcorn that you're craving? Is it you want the salt? Well, you could always then just have some edamame and put a little bit of salt on top. Is it just something where people have like an oral fixation where they feel like they have to be eating something to help kind of decompress or while they're watching a movie? So it may have nothing to do with the popcorn. It may just be you're the type of person that needs to just sit there and put something in your mouth. And so, you know, you do a whole lot better if you just snack on some sugar snap peas and some bell peppers, if that's kind of all you're wanting, is just something to kind of nosh on while you're doing something else. So Fresh Market, yeah, so I go to Fresh Market. You know, none of these places are magical. It really just depends on what I'm looking for. So I go to Publix, I get stuff off Amazon, I go to Fresh Market, sometimes Winn-Dixie, Trader Joe's as well. So, you know, they all have really good stuff. I think the biggest part is it doesn't matter if you go to a gourmet grocery store or a health food store. The majority of the stuff in any of these stores are far from healthy. So it doesn't really matter what grocery store you go into, as long as you're sticking typically to the perimeter and you're getting the produce, like the fruits, the vegetables, the lean protein, then it doesn't honestly really matter which grocery store you're going to, because they all have those. So the processed stuff is really what we should be eliminating. And so it doesn't necessarily matter what grocery store you want to go to, unless you're looking for one particular product, which they may only sell it at one grocery store or another. So how many calories? So that totally depends on the person. It is totally variable. You know, the problem is that if you look on any package, then it always says the percent daily values tell you how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. So 2,000 calories a day is used for general nutrition advice. The problem is that many people will look at these things and they say, okay, well, these values are based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. That means I need to be eating 2,000 calories. That's not true. That 2,000 calories is really just a nebulous number that came from nowhere. So for the most part, you know, most women should be eating close to 1,200 calories a day, and then most men around 1,500 to 1,800. But again, it totally depends on if you're normal weight, overweight, or obese, if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, what other comorbidities you have, if you have malabsorption issues, etc. So there are a lot of nuances in that. That's just kind of a global number, you know, and it also depends on how active you are. So if you're an elite athlete and you're doing several hours of exercise a day, you clearly need more than 1,500 calories a day. But for many people, we're quite sedentary. So, you know, again, for most women, it's going to be around 1,200, most men, 1,500 to 1,800 a day. But it's not just about calories. It also is very important where you're getting your calories from. So if I'm only eating 1,200 calories a day, but all 1,200 are coming from candy like Twizzlers, then I'm not going to feel well and I'm going to be malnourished. So it also is very important, not just the number of calories, but what are your ratios for carbs, protein, and fat, and whether or not you're getting it from refined sources or kind of whole sources where the bioavailability of these nutrients is much more effective. Anything else? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Spread the word about these seminars. I'm here to help you all navigate the kitchen and figure out what's going to work for you. This does not have to be difficult. It's about taking control and really getting creative with all this and learning, you know, how to make real good food that you all